create a variable and initialize it to something, C# will automatically know what data type you are trying to create. Okay? So very similarly, if I say var C1, what data type will be C1? We don't know. So this is not even allowed. You cannot write a statement like this. Okay? So again, because like Java, C# is strongly typed, meaning every variable you create has to have a data type. So as long as there's no ambiguity, you can use var, but if it is ambiguous, it will not be allowed. Okay? So coming back to our LINQ now, rather than saying IEnumerable student sres equal to, right? I can simply say over here var sres equal to, which is a lot easier to write than, and is there any ambiguity? No, because anytime we issue a select and a LINQ, it always returns an IEnumerable sequence. Okay? So the compiler will know. So most of the time we'll write like this. Okay? So now the question is, because it's returning a list of students, okay, and we know we only, possibly there will be one answer or null if that student does not exist, correct? So how do we get to the student? So after you issue the LINQ, then the next possibility is you will say student st equal to sres dot, and again, if you're on sit down on the computer, as soon as you type dot, there will be a method available, first or default. Okay, so just like the name implies, first means what? The very first element in the sequence, right? So if there was, what if there's nothing over there in the sequence?
We don't know.
Then what's the default value for a student if there's no student?
No.
No. So first or default either will give us the very first student in the list or null. Okay? So then you will check further if st not equal to null and then do something with it. Right? So that's one way of writing LINQ. The other way of writing LINQ is why write even these two separate statements? So let me give you even a shorter way of writing. So what I typically do is, rather than issuing LINQ, then issuing first or default, this is what I will do. Okay, as I make the LINQ, I will put parentheses around here and then simply say first or default. Okay, so now what will we check? So sres could either be a student or null. So if it's not null, I go ahead and use the sres. So you can say sres dot first name or whatever. You can access all the fields. Okay. So this is a typical way of issuing a LINQ.
What will happen if I'm not using first or default?
Then this is an IEnumerable sequence. Then you have to go, obtain the first element to be able to access it, just like I was writing before.
Can we assign sres to the data grid view?
If you don't say first or default, then yes. For a data grid view, once you create a data grid view on your form, suppose you called it DG1, then you can say, so let me go back to the example. Let me issue a different SQL and show you the data grid view. Okay, so suppose you wanted to write you have a list of students, okay, and suppose that list is called ST list. Okay, so this is basically a list of students. Okay, so obviously if you created a data grid view called it DG1, you can say dot data source equal to ST list and DG1 dot refresh. Okay, and you'll be able to display all the students. Okay, what if you wanted to filter the students so that only those students, let's say, whose ID is between a certain range? Okay, so now let's write VAR. Let's say SRES equal to from, and by the way, whatever variable you pick is your choice. So you can pick S, ST, S1, whatever you feel like it. S and ST list. Okay, where S dot ID, let's say, is greater than 9,000 and S dot ID is less than, let's say, 10,000. Select S, right? Because now I did not say first or default, so what will it return? What will SRES be? Will it be? It will be a IEnumerable sequence, right? Or a list. Okay. So now what will we do? If we do dg1 dot data source equal to SRES and dg1 dot refresh, okay, it will be able to show all students whose ID happen to be between 9,000 and 10,000. Okay. Okay, so now let me give you a few more examples of issuing LINQ. Okay. So again, when you write the where clause, okay, this where clause is written in C#, meaning if you are comparing two things in the where clause, you have to use two equal to's. If you are ANDing, you have to use two ANDs. If you are ORing, you have to. So this is complete C# style syntax once you write the LINQ statement. Okay. Okay, and just another small clarification. Okay, how was LINQ created? Just a little bit of the background. Okay, LINQ was created first by defining what are called extension methods. So let me introduce one more concept called extension methods, which is a very neat feature of C#. Okay, an extension method allows us to add a method to a class, okay, for which we don't even have the source code. Okay, I remember typically if somebody wrote a class called XYZ, right, and let's pretend already has some methods in it. Okay, and you wanted to add one more method. What will you do if you had the source code? You will go and add your own method over here, right? Suppose you called it F1. Now you can create an object of this class and call F1 through it. Okay, but what if you don't have the source code? This class was created by somebody and they compiled it, gave us as a DLL. So we have it as a library. We don't have the source code. How can we add something to it? Okay, what will you do in Java? For those of you with Java background?
You import it.
Okay, even importing will not let you, if it's in a jar file, you don't have the source code. Okay.
Creating object.
The best you can do is create a different class and inherit from it. And then, right, so if I inherited another class called, let's say my class, whatever, inherits XYZ, right? And then, okay, and then we can go and add, F1 over here. However, now the only problem is to be able to use it. What do we have to do? We have to create an object of XYZ to be able to use F1, or do we have to create an object of my class to be able to use F1?
My class.
My class. So that's really not the same thing. We want to be able to create an object of XYZ and use F1. Okay, so this is where C# has another capability which is called extension method. So once again, the goal is, even if you don't have the code for the class, you can add a method to it. How? Let me show it to you. Okay, so let's pretend we have a class called, let me give you a simple example, employee. Okay, it has double hours worked. Okay, and the corresponding property, it has a double pay rate and the corresponding property, right? It has public double compute pay, return hours worked times pay rate. Okay, a simple class, one method, one useful method called compute pay, right? And once again, let's pretend this was written by somebody else. They did not give us the code. They compiled it as a library, as a DLL. We can reference this library and use the class, but we cannot go and modify it, right? So using the C# extension capabilities, this is what we'll do. We will create another class. You can call it anything you feel like it. So suppose you call it my extension. Okay. Now, just like we use the static keyword with the method, we also